the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you. In the sky, gazing far into the night. I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Yo, hey guys. Is it going to work? Is it going to work? It's going to work. Hey. I don't know if this is working. We should be now live on Twitch, Periscope as well, but I'm not quite sure if that is the case. So I'm just literally testing it out. So just bear with me a moment. I just want to see what's going on. Because the last I looked, I think Twitch is not enjoying this. So let me know. Let me know if you can see me on Twitch. Let me know in chat, in the Twitch chat. But yeah, anyway. Hello everybody, welcome. Massive thank you to Steve-O for doing that stream earlier on today. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for myself. I know it's been a real delight for a lot of managers out there, especially those who own Leicester assets. Buffering a lot on Twitch. Right, let me just change the bitrate. Let me restart the stream. I will be right back. I'm really sorry, guys, but this is a test bed. I will be right back.
Into the night, I raise my hand to the fire, but it's no use, 'cause you can't stop it from shining through. It's true, baby, let the light shine through. If you believe it's true, baby, won't you let the light shine through for you.
Good evening, everybody. Hi there. Welcome to the Game Week 10 Saturday night review of a frustrating game week for some. A and an absolutely overwhelmingly brilliant game week for others. Hey guys, this is the first ever time broadcasting on Twitch, YouTube and Periscope, and hopefully next week we'll be on Mixer as well. Let us know. Oh, Zimmy Pog is there in chat. Is it all looking okay on Twitch? We can see the Twitch and the YouTube chat is there in the chat there, guys. So the main reason of doing this is a bit of an experiment, just because I think that a lot of people don't like to be forced to a specific streaming platform. If they like content, and they generally speaking, I like Twitch over YouTube for a lot of things. But yeah, this is just a test to see how it goes. If it goes really well, then we could possibly make it a permanent thing. So I'm after feedback from you guys, from the moderators as well. There's going to have to be just going to have to be taken on board feedback from you guys, really. But yes, good evening, everybody. Good evening, Chaban82. Good evening, Zain Hussein, Zimmy Pog, Bavin, Ian Anderson, Abdul, One Rovers Vlogs, Gabriel Ropp. How you doing? I've got my team up on the screen here, and I know that Steve-O was really, really frustrated that I had Ramsdale in goal, and again, I managed to get points after, obviously, Matt Ryan for him. Conceded a couple of goals. So, but how lucky am I that Hudson-Odoi didn't come in? Well, actually, saying that, if Aguero hadn't have played, I would have had De Bruyne points doubled. So yes, I didn't miss out on Hudson-Odoi's points, but I have got Rico on the bench with 5 points there. So what's the chances of Matip not playing tomorrow, guys? And then Rico coming in for 5 points. 66 points, says Greg Hollywood. We're going to have some crazy scores to talk about this evening, especially those who had the likes of Vardy, Perez in their team, Chilwell. Nice hat. Is it for sale? James Bang, not at the moment. No, it's exclusive to myself. It's not cheap. I don't know if I want to share the price I pay. It's properly embroidered FPL logo. If I can get the cost down, then I'll possibly look at trying to make some for merchandise. But it was like £35 for me to get direct from the manufacturer. If we get a bulk load made, then possibly we can bring that cost down a little bit. My stream is on 2 times. Is it not? No, I don't think so. We'll change it to 1 time. Then faster. Remen Khan's in chat saying 83 points. Matip will probably not play. I hope not. Oh, Klopp says Matip unlikely to play. Oh, Rico off the bench with 5 points. That would be very nice. That would be very, very nice. I am half expecting there to be a couple of technical glitches due to the fact that I'm not streaming directly onto YouTube at the moment. But anyway, 73 with Trent Alexander-Arnold and Aubameyang to play. What? Hello from New Zealand. Hey, Harbour Boy. How you doing? God, you guys have got some really nice points in chat there. And I'm hoping that we can get some guests on the show tonight on Discord. So guys, talk to me on Discord. Let's go. I'm waiting to talk to you on Discord. I want to hear how you've done. Let's just go through the results today. I know a lot of you were tuned in for a lot of the streams today, but again, after that 9-0 victory last night against Leicester, it's been a lot of disappointment for a lot of highly owned FPL assets. Myself owning Aguero, it was pretty gutting, I'll be honest with you. Hello from Ghana. Hey, Nick Gurr, how you doing? New Zealand lost. They did. I'm not a massive rugby fan, but we'll go through the results today. Man City beating Aston Villa 3-0. No involvement from Aguero coming off the last 14 minutes of the game. Upsetting for myself, Steve-O, and lots of other Aguero owners. Do I stick or do I twist? That is a question, chat. Do I finally get rid of Aguero before the Southampton game? Certainly, if he starts and plays the majority of the game on Tuesday against Southampton in the Cup, surely I'm going to have to consider getting rid of him. Right, guys? Surely. David Silva getting the goal. God, I was watching it on my mobile phone. I was watching it on my phone with my headphones in. For those of you who didn't watch, basically, I said that I did say that it looked like David Silva got the touch. Now, admittedly, I only saw it from one angle. I know that a lot of people with the bigger screens could probably see better, but it did look to me like he had a touch. And even the commentators said that it looked like he had a touch as well. Twist says infamous. Oh, we'll have to wait and see, won't we? But yeah, getting very, very fortunate there with the David Silva goal. Obviously, having David Silva in this week for, well, basically Lansbury to Silva has kind of paid off. It all depends on how Son plays against Liverpool. Gabriel Jesus getting an assist there with De Bruyne, and also Gundogan getting on the score sheet. But Sterling just tiding over those captains. Well done for those of you captain Sterling for that nice goal there. And obviously he's going to be getting bonus 3 as well. Edison bonus 2, and Gundogan and David Silva sharing a bonus 1 point there. Moving on to the Brighton-Everton game. Brighton beating Everton 3-2. Calvert-Lewin getting a goal there, and obviously the big talking point here was the Digne own goal. Absolutely. No, thank you. Nice cap, yeah, it's good. The captaincy on the field was awful, but yeah, in terms of the Digne own goal, that's going to be gutting for a lot of people. Not many people own Webster, I'd imagine. Connolly getting 2 assists, and immediately thinking of Shano, him captaining Connolly today after that bet about 100 likes on the channel. Do you think we can try to get 100 likes on this channel on this stream? It'd be great if we can. We have got Charlie Chicken Tikka Mo Salah in the waiting room. We'll get you on very shortly, Charlie. I'm just going to go through the rest of the fixtures, or the rest of the results today. Pascal Gross getting a goal, and Mupai as well, with basically Richarlison, Holgate and Trossard with the assists in that game. Bonus points, Mupai Ryan getting a bonus points, so Steve will be happy about that. Conley getting bonus points, it would seem, as well. Watford Bournemouth, very disappointed. Bournemouth again not scoring goals. Callum Wilson, what's going on? What is going on with Callum Wilson? Maybe Aguero isn't the problem in my team. Maybe I can hold him for one more game. Maybe Callum Wilson is the issue, and I could look at possibly getting Vardy in for him. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see on that one. At the moment, I think I'm going to probably be roughly around about the same position I was before the game week started. So even though I had a massive green arrow last night, I think I've clawed it back to around about the 800,000 mark, which is still pretty bad, not going to lie, but I'm hoping to get better as the weeks go on, with my luck hopefully getting better, with my captaincy picks hopefully paying off. Rico getting the yellow card as well, but did get the clean sheet. Delafeo yellow card, Decore yellow card, lots of yellow cards in that game. Foster with 5 saves, Ramsdale with 3 saves. Pretty much that's the only talking points really. Ake picking up bonus 2, Foster bonus 3, and Cathcart and Ramsdale getting bonus 1. We're going to have the West Ham Sheffield United game here. 1-1 it ended. Yeah, it was a Vardy party, Abraham. Yeah, absolutely. I missed out on that one. Snodgrass and Musette. Again, Musette coming off the bench to score for Sheffield United. No involvement, unfortunately, from Lundstrom. As someone that played Lundstrom over Rico, I'm kind of a little bit annoyed that I did that. I did that kind of last minute. But yeah, Yarmolenko, for those people that said about transferring him out, and I said just keep him probably just to see how he does in this game, did pay back his owners with an assist. And yeah, again, getting maximum bonus points. He's a great player, Yarmolenko. He's a really good price for those looking to have a bit of a differential pick there. Burnley losing 4-2 to Chelsea. That was just on a moment ago, and Steve-O going through that. I didn't get to see all the stream. Look at those guys on YouTube with those. Yeah, we've got these Twitch emotes in the chat there. Pulisic getting a hat trick, and Willian, of course, getting a goal as well and an assist. Abraham getting an assist along with Mount, which will be the talking point for a lot of people with a highly owned Abraham and Mount getting returns there, and yeah, Willian picking up a yellow card, with Hudson-Odoi picking up a late yellow card, meaning he ended the game on 0. But yeah, Pope 3 saves, Kepa 3 saves. So yeah, we'll look at tomorrow's fixtures. We'll go through them tomorrow. But yeah, I'm just going to bring on Charlie chicken tikka mo Salah. Believe you me, guys, I'm gonna try and I would love to speak to as many people as possible. So if you've had a good game week, if you've had a bad game week, if you've if you just want to rant, if you want to just share your frustration with Aguero, with Hudson-Odoi, come on air and talk to me. Let's bring in Chicken Tikka Masala. Chicken Tikka Masala, you're live on air. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Doing something pretty different tonight. I've set up the stream completely different, and I'm winging it. And I think it's working because people aren't complaining. And when people aren't complaining, it's always a good sign. But anyway, how's your game week been, Charlie? As a whole,
it's been amazing. 83 points so far.
Let's bring your team up. So 83 points. That's ridiculous, isn't it? That's brilliant.
Yeah.
Let me bring it up now. Oh dearie me. Right. Here we go. So this is your team here.
Yep.
83 points. Let's zoom it. Let's do this. There we go. Wow. Talk me through your decision to captain Vardy against Southampton. Talk me through it. You've got brilliant big hitters in that team. You've got De Bruyne, you've got Sterling, you've got arguably Wilson in a favourable fixture. Tammy Abraham is there as well. What was your thoughts on Vardy?
Well, I was literally going through my team like last minute, deciding on who to go with. I was either going to go with De Bruyne, Sterling, or Vardy, and I was literally there. And I think it was 1 minute to the deadline, and I just went with Vardy. I thought, why not? I mean, his record was poor as well. He hadn't scored there since they won the league, so I was a bit, iffy. And obviously, he didn't score in the first half. But yeah, I literally about a minute away from the deadline, and I left him captain. Yeah.
What was going through your head during that? Let's be honest now. It's an emotional game, FPL.
Yes.
I was following that game, and it was literally like a bullet hitting my chest every time a goal went in. I was thinking, please don't be Vardy. Please don't be Vardy. Like, I was thinking, right, it's the one attacker that has got a massive threat that I don't own. It's gonna cause me a massive red arrow, and it literally was like bullets hitting my chest. For yourself, you must have just been like walking on cloud nine. You must have just been like, I can't get any better than this, surely.
Yeah, I literally couldn't believe it. But it was a bit like in the first half, I was like, because Vardy wouldn't getting any chances. It was, Perez was obviously got the hat trick. Even Chilwell and getting forward. But then obviously when Vardy got the first one, I was like, at least he got a goal. Because like the last 2 weeks, like I've had shocking weeks. And like I haven't got my captain right. But yeah, and then obviously went on to the second goal, and I was like buzzing, and then literally the last couple of seconds he got took down for the penalty, and I was like, wow, this could be class. And obviously he scored it, and I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it.
So you were watching the game?
Yeah, I was watching it. Yeah.
Has this been your? I mean, this is a stupid question. I think I know the answer already, but has this been your highlight of the season so far?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, it's about time as well, because the last 2 weeks, I've had absolute shockers. Like last week, I got 32 points. The week before that, I had 35. With no captain choices right, and then finally, the third week, it pays off, and obviously I get the captain spot on, and my transfers as well. I done obviously a -4. I put in Maddison and Sterling for McGinn and Salah.
Oh, okay.
So even they, done well. So
I've had a question from Harbour Boy on YouTube. He's asking who's on your bench.
I got Lundstrom coming on for Otamendi.
Lundstrom, okay, not Rico. Okay.
Nah, not Rico.
Have you got Rico?
No, I haven't got Rico. No.
Right, so yeah. So really, double Liverpool defence tomorrow. So you're hoping that Tottenham continue their woeful form.
I hope so.
But again, you got Yarmolenko getting you 8 points. You got Maddison.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got points from pretty much well, you've got points from pretty much everyone other than Callum Wilson. Like even Ryan's picked up bonus and save points. So it's like
2 bonus points.
You've literally smashed it this week. And going forward, what do you say, or what you've got to kind of have a bit of a smug grin on people like myself who've got the problem with Aguero, because now I look at my team and I've got Aguero in it. And I don't own Vardy, and I know Vardy's got a very favourable run of fixtures up ahead of him, and I stockpiled on Chelsea. I went triple up on Chelsea with Mason Mount, Hudson-Odoi, and Tammy Abraham. Although I did bench Hudson-Odoi. Do you think that I've missed? I mean, forget this game week. Do you think that I've been a bit short-sighted on Vardy because of his price? And his obviously favourable fixtures. Do you think that he was always a better choice than, say, the likes of Callum Wilson?
Well, I was in the same situation as you. I didn't have Vardy. I only got Vardy in. I got him in for last week, the Burnley game. And I did have Aguero. I had Aguero, and I thought, you know,
you jumped off that train there.
Yeah. Looking at Vardy's fixtures, I thought, why not give him a go? So I obviously put him in for the Burnley game. He scored, and then he scored again. But I mean, with Aguero, it's just because, like I said, I did have him, and he was getting chances, but he wasn't, you know, finishing them. And then obviously he didn't score again. The only thing I'm gutted about really is not having any Leicester defence.
Well,
at the moment,
I mean, obviously Soyuncu being quite popular, Pereira as well. And what do you say about the people with Chilwell? You've got to take that hat. You've got to take your hat.
I can't believe
it. I mean, look, likes of Davey P, and others. I mean, that's just been beautiful, isn't it? Some people having like 99 points after Friday night, not having to worry about anything. It doesn't you don't have to worry about any of your other players. They could all blank. You're still going to get a massive juicy green arrow. Jason getting Vardy in for Aguero tonight confirmed. Do you think Anurag? I don't know. I think it's been one of these seasons where chasing points just hasn't worked. I mean, I've brought in players that are on form. That, like, look at Callum Wilson. He was getting assists, goals. He was ticking over points really every week. I get him in, nothing. So
same as me.
It's just one of these things where, you know, you want to try and be ahead of the crowd when a player's being jumped on. Talking about price rises, I think it kind of leads you into this feeling that you've got to get him in because, I don't want to miss out on a price rise, even though there's a good chance that if you've got money in the bank, you possibly can take that hit anyway. But I think the fixtures for me and Vardy do appeal. And I've now got an issue with Aguero. Do I just go Aguero Vardy? Do you think that's a logical move? The chat was, so Anurag was saying that. Do you think that's a logical move? And by the way, Stinky 97, Pondi 13, and Davey P will get you on air straight after Charlie. But Charlie, do you think the Aguero to Vardy move is a wise move, or I've already said I'm going to wait till Tuesday. If he doesn't start against Southampton Tuesday, I may look elsewhere to possibly upgrade Callum Wilson to Vardy. Because personally, I think I'd rather have Aguero for one last hurrah. Maybe not captain him, but maybe I'll just captain De Bruyne or something like that. Or even Vardy. But what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think getting, especially his fixtures, he's still the main man. He's on penalties. He's just on form, isn't he? When you've got a player on form, especially like in fantasy football, you need to get on him. I think, like you said, wait until the cup game comes up, see if Aguero starts, because they've got Southampton, aren't they, in the league after that cup game?
Yeah, they have. They got Southampton in the cup, then the league. Yeah, and that's got goals written all over it. But the problem with City is it's not like Liverpool where you can think, the goals are going to probably come from Mane or Salah. With City, it's like, well, it could be Bernardo Silva, it could be David Silva, it could be Sterling, it could be Jesus, it could be Aguero. You just don't know necessarily. It could be Gun for God's sake. You just don't know exactly where these goals are coming from. But you know that there's goals in this game, and I just think, I mean, I think Vardy is a very wise transfer if you make the right decision. If it's like, it's who you transfer out for Vardy. It's the main thing. I know it sounds obvious, but you don't want to end up cutting your team up just to bring in Vardy because you can't do a straight swap. Talking about the likes of Callum Wilson up to Vardy, if you haven't got the money in the bank, do you really want to be taking a -4 ahead of that Palace game? Palace pretty tight at the back. Will they be as exposed? And yeah, I think Southampton just got ripped apart.
They were awful though. Defensively were awful. Even I mean, it looked like they had 3 or 4 men sent off. They were that bad.
Yeah, it was
shocking.
I mean, I just watched the highlights because obviously, I wasn't able to watch the full game. I watched the highlights and it was just, what is going on? It was like schoolboys football. It was so uncoordinated. Hasenhüttl must have had an absolute, he must have had a rant and a rave in that change room at the end of the game, and he apologised to the fans. The fans should have probably been refunded their money, to be honest. That was
definitely.
But Charlie, I know we've got other people want to come on as well. And you got any final thoughts? So 83 points, is that right?
Yeah.
Big green arrow. Whereabouts are you going to end up in the world?
Well, I started off at 194k before the game week, and I've gone up to 23k, I think.
Well done, mate. Well done. Thank you ever so much, Charlie, for coming on. I really do. I really do like hearing about people's great game weeks, especially when I've had a pretty mediocre one. No, but in all seriousness, you're part of the Elite FPL family. You're in a cash league. You're a million miles away from me, and mate, if it makes the top 4 worry and look behind them, then it certainly makes things more interesting. Thank you ever so much, Charlie, for coming on the show.
Cheers.
Cheers. Speak to you soon, buddy. Cheers. Dude. Wow. Well, someone on the other end of the spectrum got a high point score this week. It's going to be going up towards the top 20,000. It's going to be vying for the cash points. Top 4 in the cash league. It's Chelsea Flyer says, I'm 4.74 million. Are you really, Chelsea Flyer? I thought you were higher than that. That is one hell of a jump. So, upload everything. It is one hell of a jump. We've got a few other people wanting to come in as well. I've got Amy saying in chat, I've suffered sometimes because of Vardy, fitting him in. I removed De Bruyne for Son and brought Silva because I couldn't afford De Bruyne after a price rise. If Son scores tomorrow, it will work. That's a big if. It's a big if. He is one of the best assets for Tottenham, but Tottenham aren't exactly on fire at the moment. I think I don't know. I don't want to be relying on Tottenham at the moment for points. Abdul says I was 117,000 last night. I got 40 points today. Wow, that's really... You should get a rank rise. 52 points -4. You should see a rank rise. Yeah. Anyway, let's bring in Skink 97. I know you've been waiting for quite some time. Skink 97, you're on air. How you doing, Skink?
Hey. How are you doing, Jason?
I'm doing great. I'm doing average, to be honest with you. But how are you doing, Skink? Have you posted your team in the screenshots?
Yeah,
you have. You've been. Of course you have. You're on the ball, mate. You're on the ball. Let's just bring this up then. So 77. Wow. Are we just getting people that's going to gloat about their teams on tonight, guys? I want to see someone with 13 points come on the show. Could just make me feel better. But Skink, Edison in goal with 9 points. Ake, 8 points. Jeez. Like Maddison, Mount, De Bruyne, and your captain, Vardy. I mean, it's just... Again, I'm going to ask the same thing I said to Charlie. You've got De Bruyne in your team. You've got Mane in your team. You've hung on to Pookie. I don't know why you've hung on to Pookie, but what was your thought process behind Vardy? Were you always confident that he could do really well against Southampton? Hang on, has he just jumped out? I think he may have.
I keep an eye.
There we go. There you go, mate. I can hear you now. What was your thought process of being captain in Vardy?
I had him as captain last week, so I was like, since Southampton still concede, I was like, yo, let's just keep going with. He was my captain last week, and he had 1 goal. And then since Southampton's concede a lot of goals, they haven't really kept a clean sheet. So I was like, yo, let's just keep going with Vardy, and that's how I just I didn't even change it from last week. I think the only change I made on my team is I brought Hudson in for Son, and that might come back to haunt me. I think.
I mean, again, it's a tricky one. That I think Hudson-Odoi, outside of the Premier League, he's looking really good for Chelsea, but he obviously again not starting today. There's a bit of a headache that's going to be in your team. But I mean, looking at your team, I mean, Pookie. Why have you stuck on to Pookie? Are you kind of being a bit stubborn there, or did you have other transfers that you needed to desperately make?
Well, my thought plan was I needed to change somebody this week, and it's either Pookie or someone else who I think might be an essential for the coming game week. So Pookie was on my axe. I just gave him one last chance against United because I was hoping United don't keep a clean sheet, but that might be a problem. But after this game week, if he doesn't score, I might just give him the axe for the coming weeks again. I think it might be over for the Pookie party now.
I mean, against United, he could definitely do something at home. But I mean, looking at a team, you've got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Mane to play. Two popular players that are going to be featuring tomorrow. That's going to be your team out. I think you're going to probably look to. Could you hit the 100 mark? Possibly. I mean, all you need is a goal from Mane and a clean sheet from Trent. I mean, wow, you've got to be smiling, massive smile on your face, Skink.
I am smiling because.
What's your live rank, if you don't mind me asking?
As of yesterday. Let me take a quick look. As of yesterday, my overall rank was 177. And overall rank is 177 as of yesterday.
It's very, very good. It's very, very good. And like we just heard with Charlie, it's still very congested up in that region, in that top 200, top 300,000, very little points between, the top 50,000 and the top 500,000. If you have a very good week, you can see people projecting straight into the top 50,000. Skink, thank you for coming on this evening and sharing your team. You've had a very, very good game week. You got any final thoughts to say about the show? How long have you been following the show for?
Since the season started. I've been following you guys since the season started. We've
just opened up the stream to Twitch, and we're obviously tomorrow we're going to be going on Mixer as well. Not tomorrow, but next, in the future we've got the option to go on Mixer as well. What's your thoughts on that and Periscope? Do you think that those platforms could do with fantasy football content?
Yeah, they could. Plus, I think you might be the only one, so it might be a good strategy as well.
Yeah,
you might tap into the market as well.
Who knows? Let's just bring it out to everybody. Thank you ever so much, Skink, for coming on. I appreciate you sparing time tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Let's bring on Davey P, who's too many fills. Thank you ever so much for the subscribe there, my friend. And that's a great point. If you're a new viewer to the stream, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. We are pressing forward to the 3,000 mark. We've got our anniversary stream coming up early in November. We would absolutely love to hit that 3,000 mark during that stream. And I think we're now we're kind of like 160, 170 subscribers away. Could it happen? I don't know. You guys can make it happen. If you've enjoyed the stream so far, if you've enjoyed the streams from today and you haven't hit that subscribe button, please consider doing it. And also, if you haven't hit that like button as well, just hit that like button. It really helps the channel be seen on YouTube. And let's bring in Davey P. Davey P, good evening, Davey. You've had an absolute phenomenal game week. Tonight, we've had some people come on and they've been sharing, 83 points, 77 points. You yourself have got 82 points. Can you hear me okay, David?
Yeah, I can hear you. How's it going?
Well, I'm not doing as good as you. Let me just ask you the question again that I would love to... I mean, ultimately, I'm asking everybody this. I mean, you didn't captain Vardy. You've got 82 points. You've got Chilwell in your team. What's your thoughts right now? How are you feeling?
I'm just genuinely in shock. I wasn't expecting to get that score at all. Genuinely.
Did you watch the game last night?
Yeah. I was watching the game, like 5-0 at half time, and I'm just sitting there when Vardy's goal goes in. Like, I genuinely couldn't believe this. Even when Chilwell scored.
Were you jumping for joy?
I was just sitting watching the game, like pure disbelief.
Come on, Davey. It's just between me and you now. Just between me and you. Were you jumping for joy? Did you jump up and go, yes? Come on. Just say you did.
Maybe yeah.
No. In all seriousness, though, I mean, Chilwell, Vardy, that combination. I mean, what points were you on last night?
Before today's game,
yeah.
I was on 45 after Friday.
Wow. So today your team hasn't done too bad. You've got De Bruyne. How do you feel about the assist being given and not the goal? You probably can't be too greedy, can you?
No, like, I'm not really too bothered about captaincy hauls. I think of captaincy in a different way. I don't think of it like trying to get the most points from my captain. I always think of it like captain the player that can hurt my rank the most in my team.
You got points from Rico Soyuncu today. You got points from Mason Mount. The only disappointing player in your team is Aguero. I bet you. Were you tempted to put the armband on Aguero? Because obviously I did.
No, I was never really tempted. Like the whole Jesus thing, it overshadows him a little bit, and it just kind of makes me think, nah. I think Kevin De Bruyne was always going to be my captain. He was the safest pick for me.
Hence why you didn't choose Sterling, where a lot of pit managers did go with Sterling this week. So you just got Mane left. You're going to be on a massive green arrow. Where do you think you're going to end up by the end of tomorrow?
I really don't know. Right now, I think I jumped from like 500, like just 400 and something K to like 40K.
That's just it's this congestion of fantasy football managers between the 10,000 to the 500,000. There's not a lot of points separating, and that's just indicative of that. People taking hits as well. You obviously didn't take a hit, which is another bonus for you. I just have to say well done, mate. I have to say well done, Davey, and I appreciate you coming on and just sharing it. I mean, have you got anything else to say? I mean, about this game week, about today's games again? Bournemouth not scoring, for example.
Yeah, that was quite a surprising one. Bournemouth defensively are suddenly a good team now. Wilson trolling everyone.
I want to ask you one final question. You've got Aguero in your team. I've got Aguero in mine. I don't have the luxury of owning Sterling. You've got Vardy already, a player that I'm kind of envious of. For someone like me who owns Abraham, Callum Wilson and Aguero, do you think I'm possibly jumping onto obviously Friday's results by trying to get Vardy in for one of Aguero or Wilson? Or do you think that Aguero now has proven to be too much of an unreliable asset and I should probably get rid of him as soon as possible?
Nah, I think you hold Aguero, especially with Southampton at home next. Like, taking him out is just it's risk to reward, and I think there's a greater risk of him hurting you than there is you taking him out and the player that you replace him with equaling his score.
Yeah, again, Simeon Batchelor's saying in chat, no one's talking about Perez. I think that, I mean, if you go back to game week 1, everyone was talking about Ayoze Perez in that Leicester team, and a lot of people had him in. I think
I had him in as well at that point.
I think we've all been burnt by him. So I think a lot of people are more cautious with Perez than Vardy. But yeah, you were right. He did get a hat trick. He did look very good. But was it because of, just like we said a minute ago, that Southampton's performance just being so bad? Was his performance kind of like magnified some way? You know, kind of maybe you're more, I don't know how to put it really. Maybe you're kind of chasing those points and you're looking for consistency really. Vardy's way more consistent. But no, any final thoughts, Davey P?
Just on the Perez thing, I'd say that in the games that he got his 2 big hauls this season, it was due to 2 red cards. He's playing against 10 men.
More space.
So I think I think that has something to do with it.
Yeah. No, I completely agree. And thank you very much. If you're around tomorrow night, come on to Sunday Surgery because I want to speak to you, find out where you end up because I think you're going to be well flying high. Thanks, Davey.
That's what I hope. Cheers. Have a good night.
Cheers, buddy. Cheers.
Bye.
We're going to bring on Pondi 13. Pondi 13. We'll bring you on next. But I was going to read some of the questions out in chat before we do. Aguero missing too many chances. Don't be so harsh. Abdul, he only played 14 minutes. I'm only doing one switch next week, says Chelsea Flyer. No, I'll say no point hits then. Sterling's definitely my captain next week, says Josh Simmons. Let's go through some of the other chats here. Let's see what we're saying here. Martial. I just read something about Martial. Surely no one's thinking about bringing Martial in. Surely Nick wouldn't be going anywhere near Man United. Surely not. Thoughts on Rashford, says Zimmy Pog. Zimmy Pog. I don't think I could advise anyone to get any Man United players, and I really can't. Abdul says he's gone from 700 to 73,000. That again is just ridiculous. Do you know what? When I read that, Abdul, it gives me hope. It gives me hope because I'm going to be roughly around the 820,000 mark. Okay, so when I see that, it gives me a light at the end of the tunnel that my season may not be over. It really does. But no, it's 82 points for Davey is just absolutely brilliant. His team's up on the screen there. Chelsea Flyer. Getting Pookie and Haller out. Who should I get in? Well, I've got a lot of options. Zimmy Pog. Holding on to Pookie for as long as you've done, I have to applaud that. But will he do anything against United? We'll have to wait and see. New differentials. Vince Champman in chat saying David Silva, Tielemans, Perez, Chilwell, Connolly and Pulisic. I think Connolly is a great shout if you're looking to possibly bring in Sterling in your midfield. You want to just kind of like downgrade a striker. I think Connolly is a great shout for even if he is a first bench player. I've always liked the look of Tielemans. Obviously now in that Leicester attack, he's looking on fire. Perez, a wait and see for Perez for me. Like we just said, he was down to against a poor 10-man Southampton team. Is it going to be something which we can rely on? I don't know. You don't know. We'll have to wait and see. David Silva, again, but there was that possible rotation risk there. So let's bring my team back up again for those of you just joining us the podcast. This is my team. Again, very lucky with the Ramsdale points there. Got Matip and Mane playing tomorrow. Hopefully going to be around the 820,000 mark. So it's still pretty poor. And I'm hoping that some of these stories that people are telling me that they've jumped from 700,000 to 70,000 kind of gives me that little bit of hope. But yeah, we've got Luis is waiting to come in as well. We've got Pondi 13. Pondi 13, good evening. I don't know if you can hear me because you got yourself muted. Please let me know if you hear me. Good evening.
Hey Jason, what's up?
I'm great. Pondi, are you one of these FPL managers that just want to come on and share a massive points haul, or are you like myself who've had a pretty average game week?
It started pretty good, and then today with Man City, it went pretty down.
Yes, I've got your team up here. So it started pretty good. Obviously, you had Vardy in. I mean, this is it's a tale of two. How can I say it? It's like the opposite, isn't it? So you had the Vardy in, but you've missed out on the points today from the Sterling points. And looking at that team, you've still got Salah to play. Salah as a differential. Van Dijk, he's always got that opportunity to score from corners. Admittedly, probably from a Trent Alexander-Arnold corner, but you're above average. You've done better than me. You can't kick yourself from captaining Aguero. You really can't. I mean, I didn't see the benching. I really didn't. I'll be honest, guys. I didn't see the benching whatsoever, and obviously you didn't either.
I don't really mind the Aguero bench. It's just after the game, they took away the De Bruyne goal and then the Mendy assist, and then the bonus points went away too.
Yeah. So you're in the same boat as Steve-O. Did you see the game?
Yeah, I watched it.
Did you think that David Silva got a touch?
I think he did, but then they were talking about it that even if he did, there's no offsides because it's after the game. So I don't really know.
This is a really awkward one for me because I obviously own David Silva, but I think that when I watched the game on the replays from VAR, it did look to me like the ball slightly changed trajectory when it hit David. Well, when it went past or underneath David Silva's foot. But I think it's very unfortunate that for people like yourself who own Mendy, after scrutiny by VAR, no offside was given. You could argue that if they deem that David Silva got a touch to that, then Sterling was blocking the view of the goalkeeper. So I can definitely see why people would be shocked that they'd made that decision.
Yeah, I think on Twitter they said the team that does the pick scores goals, they have nothing to do with VAR. So even if it is offsides, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, well, I don't want to see. I obviously as a Silva owner, I did say at the time. Am I biased because I'm a David Silva owner? Possibly, but it did look to me like the ball kind of made a slight change. And believe you me, I've only seen it from a mobile phone screen. So after the stream, I may just go back and watch the highlights again and have a look. But it doesn't make a difference. The decision's been made now. It doesn't change anything. You have got a clean sheet from Mendy. You have got an assist from De Bruyne. It's above average game week, albeit not a massively above average game week for yourself. You've got Salah and Van Dijk to play tomorrow. How are you feeling that your season's going?
For right now, it's above average. I'm doing above average every week, but it's just a few things that keep ruining my game every single week.
How are your captaincy picks doing? Obviously, this week has been a disappointment, but before this week, how have you been getting on?
Last week was Aguero and forgot the second one, but last week I got nothing from my captain.
So you've been relying on points elsewhere in your team?
Yeah.
Okay, so do you think this season's kind of been different to previous seasons in the fact that games have just been goals in games are coming from non-heavily owned assets and the score lines have just been completely all over the place?
I don't think so. It's only 10 weeks in. We had the Sterling hat trick. We had Vardy hat trick today. It's like big players are scoring. It's just rotation. It's like messing everybody up.
I guess the question I want to ask is, are you set on your team? Are you confident that you've got the 11 players going forward?
No.
Whereas I can personally say that last season I was pretty set on my team at this stage in the season. I kind of was comfortable with my team. I'm not.
I'm fine. I'm fine with the whole team except for Aguero. So I'm just gonna wait midweek to see if he plays or not, and if he does, I'm gonna bring in Firmino.
Firmino, has he shown any evidence to you that he's going to be bringing in point returns FPL wise?
I mean, he's keeping up with Salah, Mane, and he's much cheaper. So even if he doesn't score as many, I think he'll still get a goal and assist every week or every other week. And there's no rotation risk, so that's the big part.
Okay. Well, I mean, ultimately, again, I mean, you're not the first person to mention Firmino. I don't have him on my radar, but then my radar's been pretty crap, to put it bluntly, over the last few weeks. So
it's either the Firmino double up or the Mane double up. I could do either or.
Yeah, absolutely. No, but I know that we've got other callers wanting to come in. But have you got any final thoughts to say before we move on to the next caller?
I think people shouldn't jump on Leicester midfield that quickly, because this game was like out of a blue moon. It's not gonna happen again.
If you got Vardy, stick with Vardy. Don't get anyone else in for
Leicester. I would just stick with Vardy and Matty. I actually brought in Chilwell because he seemed more attacking than Pereira to me.
Again, I mean, I've seen the highlights. Chilwell looked very good. I think a lot of people are going to be bringing him in. I really do. And I think regardless of what we say, not jumping on Leicester assets, I think they're going to be jumped on. I really do. I think they're going to be jumped on a lot. But thank you ever so much.
I think you should just jump on the big names, not Perez. Perez is a trap.
Yeah, I'm not going to jump on Perez. Don't worry about that. Pundi, thank you ever so much for coming on tonight. Thank you, buddy. Speak hopefully soon. And may Salah and Van Dijk do well for you tomorrow. Cheers, dude.
Thank you.
Wow. So another team that scored better than me, the mighty Vardy and his team. Today's been a bit of a disappointment for him, but still a very respectable score. Be interested to see where he sits come tomorrow night. Let's bring on Luis. I've got Luis Coatley's been waiting to come on. Hello, Luis. Good evening.
Hi, how you doing?
You're live on what was it? Periscope. You're live on Twitch. You're live on YouTube. Well done. Welcome for being on our first multi-platform show.
Thank you.
How's your game week been?
Average, but it could be very good. I've only had 5 players like that have actually played.
Oh my God, this is different, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Bolly's not going to play. So you got Lundstrom. Oh, you've got Soinku's points coming in.
Soinku off the bench, yeah.
Yeah.
So technically, I'm on 31 points right now with all them left to play.
Wow. You know what?
It could be a good game week. That's what I'm thinking.
You know what?
But it might not at the same time.
Now, that's the question. You've seen all these. I mean, you've seen Sterling. You've seen Sterling get a haul. You've seen Vardy get a haul.
Yeah.
How are you feeling? And where? Like, you must have. Obviously, you've dropped in rank, presumably quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Are you nervous going into tomorrow's games with the players that you've got, or are you confident because you've got players that aren't highly owned, and this could project you further up than if you had have gone with the likes of Tammy, Aguero, Callum Wilson, for example, like myself?
No, I do have Tammy in, but
oh, sorry, yeah, you do.
Yeah. No, I am confident, to be honest. You wouldn't think at 23 points with only a few games left I would be, but I am with the players I've got. I think Mane is going to get a goal or two, 100%. Spurs' defence have been all over the place. I'm expecting an attacking return from Trent because he's not done much in the last 2. Martial was a punt that I brought in. Last game week I got out Robertson and McGinn because of poor fixtures, and I didn't really want double Liverpool defence anymore. I got them out for a hit for Bolly and Martial, and now Bolly's injured.
I mean, we couldn't forecast that, but I mean, looking at it, I want you to come on tomorrow. I want you to come on and talk to me tomorrow because you've got so much potential in that team.
Definitely.
With Jimenez and Aubameyang, Martial back for United against a pretty poor Norwich defence. Ultimately we're not scoring goals in open play, but it could be that game where we get a few goals and Martial being hopefully at the spearhead. I mean,
that's what I was thinking for the next 5 fixtures as well up until game week 15. Martial's got some great fixtures and he's playing as a number 9. He's cheap. Just as a little punt, I'd brought him in, and I'm hoping he does well, to be honest.
Well, I mean, again, it's that punt, isn't it? That's that risk versus reward with Martial, and I mean, to a lesser extent, I think that Jimenez and Aubameyang, those fixtures. I mean, Aubameyang at home to Palace. Who knows? Palace are pretty good. I wouldn't expect it to be a massive point haul, but I mean, but the way the season's going at the moment, honestly. Anything can happen. But yeah, come on tomorrow if you can. I'd love to see how you get on because there's a lot of talking points in that team. Cheers.
Yeah.
You got any final thoughts before we move on to the next caller?
I was fuming when De Bruyne didn't get his goal because obviously I captained him.
So you thought it was a goal for him?
Yeah, and I was upset that Mendy got the assist because I was so close to bringing him in on a hit instead of Bolly, and then I wouldn't have Martial as well. So we'll see how that pays off.
I mean, I haven't seen multiple angles of this David Silva. Did he touch it? Didn't he touch it? I only saw it from one angle.
Yeah, I
on the
haven't seen it
BT
at all,
on the
honestly.
BT Sports. So I mean, it's I just think that why have I just opened that on my computer? I don't know why I just opened that on my computer, but I'll have to close it down in a second. I pressed the wrong button. Feels good, man. Feels good, man, for all of you Twitch viewers out there. Just updating Streamlabs OBS. I'm opening up Streamlabs. Anyway, you don't need to know that. Lewis, I mean, ultimately, speak to you tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I'll be sure to come on.
Sounds good. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
Cheers, dude. Sorry, guys. I'm just going to try and terminate this process. I've never done that before. I've never opened up Streamlabs OBS as well as OBS Studio. And I was hoping that my CPU didn't melt because I've got a lot of browser sources going on. For those of you who don't know, feels good, man. Feels bad, man. Right. Anyway, let's bring on Anderson. Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson, can you hear me?
I can indeed, mate. How are you?
Ian, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right. But I'm just looking at your team and I just see it. Well, the first thing I saw was 75, and I'm thinking, God, here we go again. Well done. Captain Sterling, got Vardy in, Soyuncu. Oh, I mean, look at this. I mean, the only negative is that Otamendi didn't play for you, and that you're gonna have Oye coming on, but you never know. But let's just sum your game week up. You've got Connolly in. Sum your game week up. Game week 10. Go.
A bit like Davey P, to be honest. Shock. Because, like I say, I've took a punt on, basically got Vardy in because it was hurting the rank. Leicester for me I didn't have any Leicester, and I had Luca Dean. I took Luca Dean out, did the -4, brought in Soyuncu, took Pookie out for Connolly to fund the Vardy move for Haller.
Jesus. So wow, you've done some good transfers then, haven't you? I look at this and I just think it's just points. I mean, obviously Pope, was again, that wasn't exactly going to be much out of, against Chelsea, you wouldn't be expecting much. But you got Salah left. Whereabouts are you going to be? Did you watch the game last night? I've got all these questions for you.
I did. I was in the pub and I was watching
I bet you were going mental in the pub, weren't you?
It was crazy. Like, literally, I couldn't believe it. Goal after goal after goal. And I was the same as you. I was like, is it Vardy? Is it Vardy? Seeing who's assisting. It was just manic. But no, rank-wise, before the game week, I was doing really poor. I dropped out of the top 1 million to 1.2. And I'm currently now sat at 300k.
That's amazing. And again, it fills me with hope that even though I'm doing pretty poorly, especially from your standards, I mean, it just fills me full of hope that there is the ability to reclaim those lost points and to kind of move up the rankings, assuming you get your team right. And this is indicative. I like saying that word. It is indicative of that purely the fact that you've nailed your team perfectly.
And I've also got the first proper return back from a -4 as well. So literally everything couldn't have gone any better. Obviously, Salah's still left to play. But no, I'm happy, and I have made a move already. And I've got absolutely rinsed from some people for doing my move so early, but I've taken Otamendi out and I've swapped him for Trent.
Well, I just taking Otamendi out for Trent. That's just, well, it's a bit of a no-brainer for me. That's an instant upgrade. Did you have the funds for that? Obviously,
when I did the -4 last week, I brought Connolly in with a bit of help from a couple of others in the community. I looked at Wilson, but ended up thinking better of it. Brought in Connolly, and then I had 1.9 million left in the bank. And obviously there was a price drop on Otamendi last night. I panicked, so I've gone, right, I need to do it now, regardless.
Well, I think that's the perfect replacement for Otamendi if you can afford him. Trent Alexander-Arnold, we all know what he's capable of doing. I mean, you got to be comfortable with your team. Obviously, you've got Aurier in the team and Kelly, which are going to be issues you need to move on. But other than that, I mean, you're starting 11, looking pretty good, and so's the Green Arrows.
The only bad thing I've got coming up is like game week 12. All the fixtures are red, so I'm going to have an absolute mare there. So I'm kind of hoping that I can build ground like I have this week to maybe balance it out if I have a pod, because I've got too many conflicting players.
Yeah,
playing each other, and it's going to be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, I mean, I'd look to try and sort that bench out personally. I know. Have you done your wild card? Sorry, Ian.
I did, yeah.
You
week
did,
3.
yeah. So possibly over a few weeks, just try to possibly move a few of those bench players out to players. I mean, that you could possibly rely on a bit more. I mean, Rico's even becoming a good contender for a bench player at the moment. He's again.
I actually looked at him. I did look at him with my -4, but I ended up going with Soyuncu in the end, and that's paid off.
Well, one more point, of course, but no. Ian, thank you for sharing your team today, and obviously Salah is a differential. Would you believe it, against Tottenham tomorrow? So. You never know. He may be the cause of another Green Arrow tomorrow night. But yeah, thank you ever so much. Any final words?
No, I just want to say a big thanks to Steve again for doing the live stream again today.
Oh yeah.
Even when his head looks like it wasn't in it.
Oh,
especially watching Burnley as well. I felt sorry for him.
Yeah, I mean, when you do podcasts like this, and you've got allegiances with a football club and with the FPL assets you've got in your team, and things aren't going your way, then it can get really tough. And today for me was really, I'm not going to lie to you, I was pretty down today. I was pretty down today. And purely out of a miracle with Ramsdale and David Silva getting that, fortunate for a lot of people's opinion, that goal. I mean, that's kind of salvaged a lot of my week, and
we get it though. I mean, the last 3 weeks I've had absolute mares. I've been getting low 20s and 30s, so I was very close to getting rid of Sterling this week. I've been umming and ahhing about shipping him out, but I thought, nah. I said at the beginning of the season that there were 3 that were staying in: De Bruyne, Salah, and Sterling. And I'm sticking to that now. I'm not taking them out.
Okay, on the backbone of your team. I think it's a very solid one. I think over the season, there's a lot of points in those 3 players. De Bruyne, it's not going anywhere for me. I've got rid of Salah, and I keep waiting for that day to come where I'm going to be ruining that. But thank you for your kind words on Steve-O. Steve-O did a very good job today. Obviously, he had some tech issues as well earlier this afternoon. He went through all the games though from 3 o'clock onwards, and it was admirable, very admirable. Thank you ever so much, Ian.
No worries, mate. Take care.
Speak soon. Cheers, dude. I'm going to answer a few of the questions in chat. I know a few of you guys are talking to each other, and again, just saying, from 1.3 million to 300,000 I did it. Says just saying in chat. That's just again, it's just miraculous. Vardy's nice, but Jimenez is the next one to jump onto. Says the Tesso in chat. Firmino or Vardy, says Alpha 9. I'd probably have to say Vardy. I'm gonna go Kapuki for United. Already sold last night for Jimenez though. You've already sold him for Jimenez. I think Jimenez is a great pick. I think he is. Vardy and Jimenez are great picks going forward. Obviously, Vardy being more, if you can afford him. I think I would go with Vardy. Mane hat-trick and some assists for Trent Alexander-Arnold would be nice, says Anurag in chat. Do a transfer early to avoid price rises. In my team value sucks, says Ad Whitfield. This is the age-old question. Do you do early transfers to beat the price rises? And a majority of the time, people would say it's probably not worth it. Probably not worth it unless you're priced out of the transfer completely. If you're worried about losing out on point 1 and possibly another one of your players gets injured or hasn't even played yet, there's games on tomorrow, don't forget, guys, then I've known it a lot of the times. People doing early transfers, they do the transfers on the Saturday night. A player of theirs gets injured or plays midweek, gets injured, or gets injured in training, and then the press conferences come on Thursday, Friday, and it's like, oh, this person's injured, and then you think, well, I've used my transfer up, and now I'm gonna have to take a pint of -4. So it's a lot of questions. There's a lot of consideration. Will I do the Vardy transfer before Tuesday? I'm gonna be honest, guys. The urge is there's a big wall of pressure pushing down on me, and sometimes, even though I think Steve-O kind of like covers the point as well. It's like doing a podcast and putting yourself publicly out there, talking to you guys, listening to you guys, reading your messages, listening to your feedback. I do have this kind of pressure that I need to kind of make correct decisions purely because of this podcast. And I think I'm overthinking things a little bit, and I'm jumping onto bandwagons. I'm not relaxed. I'm not relaxed playing FPL at the moment. Last year, I was literally laid back, just relaxed playing FPL. This year, I'm on edge. My mind has gone into overdrive. I'm just going to bring on Gabe00Babe. That's an excellent name. Gabe, good evening, Gabe. I don't know if you can hear me. You got yourself muted.
00Babe. Good evening.
Good evening, Gabe. Hopefully you muted the stream. I'm going to bring your team up now. 73 points. Is this the first time on the stream, Gabe?
This is, yes.
Well, welcome. How did you find out about the channel?
I was just flicking through FPL content at the start of the season and came across Elite FPL.
Wow. So you've been with us since the start of the season. First time on. Is your first day in Discord?
I've been in Discord a few times, but this is the first time chatting, yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm grateful for you to spare time of your evening to come on and talk to me. Another barnstorming performance from a fantasy football point of view. You got 73 points. You've got Vardy in. Of course you got Vardy in. Almost everyone that's come on tonight has had Vardy in. Captain Sterling, so you had a captain success. De Bruyne in there. Otamendi. Who's on your bench? Oh, I can see now. There we go. Yeah, I've got. Sorry, I didn't scroll down. I've got Lundstrom coming on for Otamendi. But ultimately, you've got to be absolutely loving life, as Steve-O would say.
Yeah, it was really good. A few days before, I was sort of not happy with Salah's performance over the recent weeks, and also the rest of my midfield. Previously, I had Cantwell in. So I decided to take a 8-point hit this week.
Wow.
I took out Salah, Pookie, and Cantwell, and put Martial, Maddison, and Vardy in.
So that's really, really worked out. Maddison, Vardy in itself, it's just that Martial, another one with Martial in. I mean, it's just obviously. Do you support Man United?
I do, yes.
You do. Do you think that's partly? Do you think this Martial pick is partly because of the fact that you support Man United? Because I know I held on to Dan James for quite some time, and he didn't do absolutely anything for me. And as a United fan, I'm just thinking, right, I've been burnt already with United this season. I can't recommend anyone. I had Wan-Bissaka early in the season. He failed for me. I had Dan James. He didn't do anything for me. I look at you with Martial in. Are you thinking that Martial is the key ingredient for United in terms of getting those goals? Now he's back.
Yeah, I was originally it's a decision between Martial and Pulisic, so I'm regretting not going Pulisic because, of course, his hat-trick tonight. But any game he has played, apart from the Liverpool home game where he only got a few minutes, he's got returns, 2 goals, well, 1 goal from Chelsea Wolves and an assist from Crystal Palace. So I was looking at those and wanted not a budget option, a mid-range option for Salah replacement, so I can get Maddison in alongside Martial to really strengthen the midfield.
Well, I mean, it's worked out. I mean, you've still got Trent Alexander-Arnold, Martial to play. Who knows what that score could be tomorrow? Man United or Norwich against Man United. I mean, thinking, thinking if he does well, he's going to be another FPL player that people are going to jump on. Price is nice. He's playing at advanced positions, at a position for United. I still think United have got goals in them. I know people might laugh in chat, but I do think that there's goals in them. Obviously, we're not scoring many goals at the moment, especially in open play, but those goals have got to come. They've got to come. We have got a talented team, and you just think that as soon as things start to gel, they've got to start to gel. And Martial is probably the most favourable out of Rashford, and then the likes of Dan James as well. I think Martial, Dan James, and Rashford. I think Martial will be up there. So no, I can see your thought process behind that. You've held on to King. Is King someone which you're kind of losing patience with now? I mean, I've got Callum Wilson. He's not doing any better. But what's your thoughts on King?
I brought in King, I think 2 game weeks ago, so he hasn't returned at all for me yet. So I was tempted to take him out this week as well, because I just didn't think he was going to score, but I didn't want to have to take the 12-point hit. So I kept him in because his fixtures, I believe, look half decent. Well, now it's Man U away next, Man U at home next, so that might be my transfer. But I was really looking at fixtures for the upcoming players for Leicester, especially because I think the next 7 out of 8 games
they're great. They're great.
Very, very good.
Even the Arsenal game is perfect.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect for Vardy. It's the sort of games he loves, he relishes. And there's me looking at my team going, I've got Wilson in my team, I've got Aguero in my team, I haven't got Vardy, and I'm like, I need to get him in. It's that impulsiveness that FPL kind of gives, that kind of that feeling that that fear of missing out. I've already missed out on the haul. There's no doubt about it. Vardy's not going to get this point haul every week. I've missed out on that. But the fixtures are what makes Vardy appealing as an FPL asset. He's guaranteed minutes. He's got great fixtures, and I think he's got a higher point ceiling over those fixtures than Aguero, because obviously City's fixtures start tightening up and the minutes are really not there for Aguero. And then also Callum Wilson, I think he's got a higher point ceiling, Vardy. So I'm going to be very, very calm on this transfer, but I know that I'm probably going to end up getting Vardy, and I really do. But Gabriel, yeah. I mean, in a nutshell, were you watching the game Friday night? Were you jumping for joy every time Leicester scored? I know I would have been.
I was actually at work that night because I work night shifts, so I didn't get to see until a few hours afterwards, and I was shocked at the 9-0. But
I was worried they were going to score another one.
I was very happy though.
I was worried they were going to score another one and get the overall record. But I'm just amazed that we've got so many people in the community that have had such a great game week. It's been very much either disappointment or just pure brilliance. It seems to be very little in between. But yeah, you must be absolutely really happy, and I just want to say thank you very much for coming on the show, because it's always great to speak to someone new, Gabe, and you're obviously from the UK. Whereabouts from the UK are you?
Just south of Cambridge.
Cool. Okay. And yeah, I hope to speak to you again. I really do. It's great to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
No worries, buddy. Hope to speak again soon. Cheers, Gabe. Wow. 73 points and more to come for Gabe there. Vince Chapman's here. United won't score 3 goals more than 2 times this year. I wish I could disagree with that. Ibrahim says, I think United are more likely to keep clean sheets than getting attacking returns. I wish I could disagree with that as well. Robert Black in chat. I spent 4 points for an extra transfer. Yarmolenko and Aubameyang out for Sterling and Conley in. It paid off. Well, Aubameyang hasn't played yet, and Yarmolenko did get a point return. He got 8 points, didn't he? So yeah, it hasn't necessarily paid off yet, Robert. You've still yet to see the final outcome of that transfer. Any other questions in chat? Quickly have a look now. Let's see if there's anyone. anyone in Twitch that's got any questions? We've got a lot of questions in the YouTube chat. I was looking through the Twitch ones, but there just seems to be people spamming emojis in Twitch as if that's something that happens all the time. We got Vardy has already got 143,000 transfers in, says Tahir in chat. That's a lot of transfers. He's going to go up, isn't he? Need to outplay the template, says the Tesso. This is the hardest season to date. Newbies are nailing it because they are playing the game their own well. Unlike experienced players. The Tesso, I looked at very highly thought of FPL managers over the seasons of people who have been in the Hall of Fame, and I have noticed that there are people having just as bad game weeks and just as bad seasons as me. So that kind of again reassures me that I'm not necessarily doing something wrong. It's just like you've said, things are a little bit different today. This season. United are a trap, says Opus. Inconsistent. Yes, they are. They are inconsistent. Hey, Firetog, how's it going, buddy? Leicester were 1 goal away from matching Man United's goal total for season in one game. Leicester were 1 goal away from matching United's goal total for season. No, if they were 1 goal away from beating the record, I'm sure they were. It was 9-0 was the record, wasn't it? They equaled the record. They haven't beaten it, as far as I'm aware. I've gone from 2 million. Okay, so Amy is now saying in chat that he or she, I don't know, has gone from 2 million to 100,000 in 3 weeks. 2 million to 100,000 in 3 weeks because I stuck to Sterling and Chilwell and Vardy. Amy, that's absolutely ridiculous. Well done. Wolves without Bolly could be a defence to target again, whilst his absence may cost their overall chemistry, affecting negativity Jimenez. El Clasico makes a very good point there. Yeah, I mean attacking wise, Bolly's good. Will there be damage to their defence? Will they be more vulnerable? Will they have less possession? Will they be more susceptible for the counter-attack? Will Jimenez be less of an option? I don't think so. I think Jimenez is always going to be an option. I think he's a top pick. If you want to go down that route, of course. Mavid Dykel says Twitch is full of children. That's not fair. It's full of streamers playing video games. Do you think Pookie will outscore? Do you think Pistol says? Do you think Pookie will score against Man United? No, I don't think he will score against Man United. Leicester are unlucky to have 2 matches playing against 2 men. Against 10 men. Yes, Alpha 9, they were. Jason, thoughts about James, says Michael Svedlin in chat. Svedin, I would hold off getting down James. If you had to put a gun to my head and say you need to bring in a Man United player now, who would it be? It would be Martial. But I wouldn't be recommending Martial. Don't go jumping for Martial. Not unless you really are a player that is not worried about taking risks. Vardy is 100% the best on form striker in the league last year. Vardy is 100% best on form striker in the league last year. I mean, Vardy is a good striker, but I wouldn't say he's 100% the best on form striker. I mean, I haven't seen that over the course of last year. I mean, you could be right, Vince, but in terms of a striker, possibly, yeah, because I know that Salah's a midfielder. So, yeah, okay, I agree, yeah. I think the problem with Vardy was obviously early in this season, the money put a lot of people off, and obviously with those cheaper options and alternatives, I think that's why people have kind of disregarded Vardy, and the fixtures weren't good early this season. Yes, so let's bring in our next guest. Our next guest will be Crazy Jack. Crazy Jack. Good evening, Crazy Jack. How are you doing this evening?
You alright?
Yeah, I'm alright. Seems to be an every week occurrence. I'm just having an average game week, just ticking on, just seeing my rank kind of flitter around the 850,000 mark. How about yourself, Crazy Jack?
Yeah, I did alright. I've had a pretty good week so far.
Yes, your captain's paid off. De Bruyne, I bet you wish you'd have captain Sterling as your voice, but I mean, logic. I mean, I can see why.
Well,
you
yeah,
went...
De Bruyne is the more consistent.
I
so
know. Yeah, I know. I can see why you did it. I really can.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah. Let's have a look at your bench. You got Lundstrom coming in for Otamendi, right? So you're on 44 points. You've still got 3 to play.
Yeah.
Talk us through the events of Friday. I've spoken to players that have had the benefit of having Vardy in their team, how they felt on Friday night. I know how I felt on Friday night. Did you watch the game?
Yeah, I did. It was a cracking game. It was a really good game.
Yeah.
I was weird. Granted, Southampton. I reckon Leicester did so well due to Southampton with a man down. But yeah, it was a really good performance. Leicester looked like a quality team on the day.
Are you?
Obviously, bad. Go on.
No. Obviously, what? Sorry.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah, they look like a quality team, and obviously now, I had Perez at the start of the year, and now this is the time he starts doing stuff. But Vardy did well, and yeah, great game for all of them.
Jamie Vardy is coming up to a very, very enticing run of fixtures. Are you FPL manager that's going to be bringing him in?
No.
And why is that?
Because I believe in the Lacazette.
Oh, wow. That's a good answer.
In Lacazette, I trust.
In Lacazette, you trust. Have you got any money in the bank?
No, that's the thing. The thing I'm more worried about at the moment is Otamendi. That's what I'm more worried about.
Well, yeah, because that red card for Fernandinho isn't going to actually affect his Premier League availability, because he'll serve that midweek that ban. But yeah, Otamendi. Who are you thinking as a replacement for Otamendi?
Well, I want a Man City defender, so there's 2 options. I either downgraded Stones, which I'm not actually against, because I feel like he's going to be the more to certain centre-backs to play, to go alongside Fernandinho, or I downgrade Salah, then get Mendy. Which, that in turn sounds better, but I would like to keep Mane. Salah. So, yeah. I don't know what's your thoughts on that. Downgrading Salah to Mane to get Mendy in. Or
Was that for? Is that just 2 transfers? Not minus...
there's no hits.
Downgrade Salah to Mendy to get. I mean, you can wait till tomorrow, or would you like to not wait? Because I think.
I can wait. He's not going to go up tonight. Even if he went up tonight, I would still have enough.
Still have enough. I would wait, see how Salah performs against Tottenham. Because I know in Europe he's been pretty more on fire, and I think Salah's got this. There's gonna be a game where it's the Salah show.
Yeah.
I really do think that. Mane's been keeping up with him and outscoring him of recent weeks, and I mean I did the switch to Mane, so I have benefited from that switch. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. But this is apparently Salah's best start to a season, so he could just dominate.
I think, could you do? You ain't got enough to go Otamendi to Trent, have you?
No.
See, City's fixtures are kind of getting less favourable, and Liverpool's are getting a little bit more favourable.
Yeah, but I don't want to risk double up, because one just jammy goal and that's just great, here we go. So I'd rather have the 2 best teams and have a play and just hope for the best. Because even games where they've expected to do not keep clean sheet, they've kept clean sheets. You can't predict it. It's really weird this season. Listen.
If you're not taking a point hit, Salah to Mane, Otamendi to Mendy is a green light from me. I think that going on form in FPL form, going on the outlook in terms of Zinchenko being injured, I can't see Mendy being dropped, and Otamendi is a question mark. So yeah, I think those transfers will work out for you, especially if you're happy to keep hold of King going forward. Which, I mean,
I'm happy with King.
Yeah,
he's the cheaper option between the 2. He actually looked really good today, and he's on pens. So, for 6.3, penalty taker for a pretty good team. Granted, he did well. He could have got an assist today.
They're not scoring
guy
goals
should-
at the moment, though, Bournemouth. That's my worry. They
Oh,
need
well,
to start scoring goals. It's been 2 game weeks, okay, admit that. But
Oh yeah, but the thing was the cross King gave a cross that was an absolute sit. I don't know how the guy didn't score it. I don't know who it was. It wasn't Wilson, but it was an absolute sit, and he just hit it straight at Foster. But yeah, that's my one transfer. Or is an idea because I don't know if I've upgraded the bench. It might be Otamendi to Stones, Cantwell to Dendonka, so I can get Rico in for Kelly. So I have a bit of a stronger bench. Or I could even lock into Otamendi into Stones, Cantwell into Dendonka, and then get a better keeper. So Gazinha as a backup keeper.
Using one of those transfers just to strengthen your bench in a short period of time, I don't think is necessary. It's going to benefit you. I think I personally don't like goalkeeper rotation. I know a lot of FPL managers do like to have the luxury of switching goalkeepers out. In the past I've hated to have the decision. I don't like to have the decision. But I think I prefer the option that you said, Salah to Mane, Otamendi to Mendy. I think that's a great option. You still can rely on Lundstrom to get you those minutes as first sub, and Cantwell will play. He will play games, and he has got that threat. If they start to kick on again, like take their form back earlier in the season, you just don't know. But he is going to play minutes, is my point. So
yeah.
I think you don't necessarily have to panic just yet on your bench, and I think just sorting out that Otamendi possibly is your priority. Is money there tied up in Otamendi? You don't necessarily want to see it wasted.
Yeah, because I want a City defender. So I mean, Otamendi to Stones could be an idea, but obviously there's just always a risk of rotation. So that's why with Zinchenko out as well, Mendy might be the dream guy because he actually looked really good. But I don't know about Salah. That's the problem. That's always my question.
Yeah, I mean, Mendy, unfortunate not to get an assist today. A lot of people would say got the clean sheet. We saw what he did last season, Mendy last season. I mean, admittedly, I know he was injured for the majority of it, but we all know what he did last season at the start. And if he's fit, he's bombing down that left wing. I can see him getting. And he's got a great cross on him as well, Mendy. He's got a great. It's one thing that Zinchenko doesn't have. He's got a great cross. He's not the best defender in the world, but attacking wise, he's sublime. And yeah, to me, the more I think about it, Otamendi to Mendy. Go. Salah to Mane. Go. See what happens tomorrow with Salah. Yeah. Of course, there could be injuries tomorrow. You never know. But yeah, just I would go. I'll favour that one. But no, take that as you will. Thank you ever so much, Crazy Jack, for being with us tonight. It's much appreciated.
Cheers, thank you for that. Yeah.
Cheers, buddy. Speak soon.
Bye.
Speak soon. We've got Phil in the waiting room. I just want to go through some of the questions in chat before we bring Phil on. Salah not pictured in 42 training pictures, says Nick. Oh, don't scare people, Nick. We don't want to read into that. Mendy's next one is fine, but then Liverpool right after? Nah. Well, do you necessarily have Mendy in your team for his defensive ability? FPL Classico? I mean, if he's fit, he's got a great chance to get attacking returns. Injury prone. City won't get that many clean sheets today. They were lucky to avoid a goal. Edison was on fire today. I agree. City aren't exactly that strong in defence at the moment. But again, my point being is Mendy is a very attacking player and has got a beautiful left foot on him. Aguero's dropping tonight. Of course he is, Tessa. Of course he is. All these knee-jerkers. Gotta get him out. Vardy's vice-captain and Aguero's captain. My life was great until about 4:30 p.m. today. Chris Judge, I feel your pain. That makes me feel a bit better than having me with Aguero captain and KDB vice-captain. Yeah. Chris Judge, I feel your pain and I'm sorry for your loss. 54 FPL points. Mujahid. Apologies if I mispronounced that. Mujahid is saying 54 points. My FPL points with 3 players left. That's very, very good. Very good. Well above the average. All these 70+ point hauls ain't making me feel any better. Ray Joyce, it ain't making me feel any better either. But you've seen these people get these point hauls, and they've gone massive jumps from 700,000s to 70,000, from 500,000s to top 50,000. I mean, it's been crazy jumps in swings in rank. So that must give you hope. Let's bring in Phil. Good evening, Phil. You're now live on air on the Saturday night reaction to it's kind of the digesting of the fixtures on the results. You able to hear me okay, Phil?
Yeah, I can hear you clear.
Cool. And Phil, you've had a very good game week, haven't you? You got 69 points.
Yep.
You've also benefited from Vardy, and you've had Maddison in that game as well. In fact, looking at your team, it's only Kepa that's not giving you any point returns.
Yeah, that was a Kepa and Mount lost 5 points in the last 6 minutes of that game. Chelsea, you could say Chelsea sort of phased off slightly, but the goals from Rodriguez was class, absolutely class.
I look at this team and I just am jealous because your captaincy's paid off. Obviously, you'd have preferred to have had Vardy, of course. You'd have preferred or Sterling.
And I've got my Otamendi replacement to come on as well.
And your Otamendi replacement is Yarmolenko. Mate, stuck with Yarmolenko. Why did you bench Yarmolenko, if you don't mind me asking? Why did you take Kolasinac over Yarmolenko? I don't know.
Just the gamble that I took at the chance. But I've seen some major green arrows today. I'm up 50 places in the cash league to 36. I've gone from 2.1 mil to 600,000.
I think somewhere you passed me on the way up.
Yeah.
I've
passed a lot of faces today.
Yeah, I just hope that I can share and bask in these massive point hauls that all these other people are basking in. Next game week. I mean, you own Vardy. Do you think that a lot of people are knee jerking at this poor performance from Southampton, bringing in Vardy, taking out the likes of Aguero, Wilson, Tammy Abraham, even, or freeing money up to do that move to Vardy? Maybe taking point hits. Do you think that they're making a mistake? Do you think that they're a little too late?
Personally, I didn't see Vardy doing what he did yesterday. I would have been more than happy with 1 goal. But those that jumping off Aguero, what did Aguero play today? 14
minutes.
Yeah, so then he should be a shoo-in for the next game.
Yeah, but he didn't play. He didn't play the game before, and we thought he would have been a shoo-in for this game, and he didn't. And he could play midweek. He could play Tuesday against Southampton, 90 minutes. Then what?
Well, the one benefit with Vardy is he's a decent player, and his fixtures stand up for like the next 8-10 fixtures. You're going to be happy with him in his squad.
He's decent. He's a decent player. He's got the fixtures, and he's got the minutes. He's going to play the minutes, isn't he?
And he's not on no international duty, no European football.
Yeah, no, definitely. So in a nutshell, how you feeling about this game week and like today's games? A bit more disappointment for a lot of heavily owned FPL assets. Obviously, Bournemouth again not scoring.
I was happy with that. That was quite a key thing for me. I was just thought as long as like Wilson or King don't get no return. Obviously, I've got avoid who I've got tomorrow. Jimenez. I've got Aubameyang, Salah, Mane. I need so many players to blank tomorrow, so I still could go back down. But
I bet you were happy when you heard the news that Aguero had been benched.
I was even more happy when he come on for 14 minutes.
I hate you, Phil.
Sorry.
Oh, definitely. No. I mean,
and then Hudson-Odoi coming on, and then I thought when he gets tackled, it's oh no, he's won a penalty, he's going to get the assist, and then he gets a yellow card as well. Sorry.
Oh yeah, well I'm glad I didn't have Hudson-Odoi in my starting 11. I almost did. But I brought David Silva in for Lansbury late on, and we got lucky with that. Obviously Steve-O, bless him, he had to do a whole stream through that, and I think the roller coaster of emotion peaked when he thought that Hudson-Odoi had been fouled in the box and there was going to be a penalty and he was going to be possibly in for an assist, only to find that Hudson-Odoi dived and got a yellow card. You can't laugh at someone's misfortune, but I did smile.
You can't write these things, especially the thing with the Mendy losing his points as well. Oh, I felt sorry for Stephen.
I felt sorry for him, but as a rival, I got let off. I got let off the hook this week because I took a -4, and it all kind of looked like, as the game started, it kind of looked that Steve-O was possibly going to overtake me, and he's going to be fuming inside that he hasn't taken the opportunity. Well, it's not his fault. Again, his differentials haven't paid off. Ramsdale getting me 7 points didn't help. Again, if Matip doesn't play for me, I'll get Rico's points off the bench. So, yeah, could be more ranting and raving for Steve-O tomorrow. Let's hope, because a ranting and raving Steve-O makes for very good entertainment for myself and for a lot of people in the chat. I know that much. But Phil, back to your team. Very
One
well.
bit of
very
advice that you could help me with this: who from that 15, we'll call it 14, not including the sub keeper, would you remove? Because I've got 2 free transfers at the moment.
Who would I remove out that team? Barnes.
The only reason I'm thinking to keep Barnes is, although he didn't score today, he did look quite lively, and as Ian mentioned earlier, I do need some players that can play in Gameweek 12. Otamendi's probably the main one that I'm thinking.
You mentioned Gameweek 12, yes. 2 players would be Barnes and Otamendi for me. I'd be bringing Conley in and upgrading Otamendi to Mendy. Thoughts?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure of Mendy. I don't like City's next 5 fixtures. I know Mendy's capable of getting returns. But
If you did the Barnes to Conley, can you do Otamendi to? Would you double up on Liverpool? Robertson?
Not in defence.
Well, now they've got Alisson back. Someone made a point in chat a minute ago. Now Alisson back. I mean, their backline strengthened now. Not going to be any worrying howlers from the goalkeeper, you would imagine.
My only thing is that I'm planning to bring Salah back in for Sterling after Game Week 12.
Yeah, obviously, if you were to do that, you've got Game Week, the blank Game Week coming up. But I mean, in terms of, I don't know, looking at that, I think that you've got the main players. Like, I mean, up front you've got Vardy and Abraham, and that's nice. It's either that or you possibly
what about
get Jimenez in maybe for Barnes, and then use the money from Otamendi to possibly bring, I don't know, Rico. I don't know.
The only thing with bringing in Jimenez is then it's then going to give me the headache of being locked into 3 up front. But
and then you want to have to you want to have the Yarmolenko points as well, don't you? Yeah. It's a headache doing that, isn't it? I understand, but it's because you spreading your funds out. You haven't got you've got. I mean, besides De Bruyne and Sterling, you've really spread your funds around quite well in that team, haven't you? You got like Pereira, Trent. I'm not sure Kolasinac though. I don't know why you've gone with Kolasinac. So that's a bit of a weird one for me.
He just got me a couple of double digits last season, and I just fancied him when he was coming back. But he's one with Tierney and Bellerin coming. He's one that I could look at getting rid of.
I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I think you got 2 transfers. You say?
Yeah.
Otamendi out. I think Otamendi out. You may not even have to do anything else. Just wait and see. See how it develops, and just possibly bring in. Have you got any money in the bank?
Nah, all my budget's locked in my team.
I know people have done Stones in, but I wouldn't do that personally.
One thought of, but it depends how they look tomorrow, is Maguire.
Yeah. Again, it's Man United.
If they get 4 corners a game over the next 6, that's 24 corners. Surely a ball can hit that head.
Slab head, yeah.
Out of 24 corners.
No, I just think, okay, yeah, he's an option. But again, he's not going to be a highly owned or highly transferred in option. But yeah, wait until tomorrow's game, see how they perform against Norwich, make a decision. You don't have to rush into these transfers, but I do think Otamendi out is possibly a good one. I would have said Bolly, but he's injured. Yeah. No, just wait and see on that one, Phil. But appreciate you coming on tonight. I really do.
Cheers, man.
It's a good headache
Thanks
to have, mate. It's a good headache to have. It's nice to have 2 free transfers as well. Cheers.
Yeah.
Cheers, buddy. Speak soon.
Bye.
Got Firetog in the waiting room. We'll get Firetog on in a moment. Let's read some of the messages that we've had in our chat. I'm happy with Rodri will miss a game at Anfield, says Alexander Todorov. Ian Anderson says Gameweek 12 has clashing players versus each other in fixtures. Yes. Liverpool are going to smash City. That's what's happening in Gameweek 12. Maybe they've got a stronger defense. I'll give you that. Get Conley and move out Kepa. Could have, but does he want to necessarily do that goalkeeper transfer? I don't know. Can City get 9-0 versus Southampton? Well, for those people bringing out Aguero, it's the way the season's gone. People are going to bring out Aguero's going to go down in price. Aguero's going to end up. I've got a feeling Aguero's going to do something against Southampton. I really do. And Vardy's going to blank against Palace. I've got a gut feeling. So I should stick to my gut, guys. I shouldn't do the transfer, right? Who's with me? Stick with Orba or twist to Vardy, Jason. It's a really tough question, to be honest with you. Wolves 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, form over fixtures for me a lot of the time. Leicester are on fire, but Southampton was a little bit of an anomaly because I think that Southampton just played like a schoolboy team, down to 10 men, had no structure, they had no organisation. They flattered Leicester a little bit in terms of their performance. I think stick with Aubameyang. Stick with Aubameyang. You've missed out on the points from Vardy now, Wolves. I don't think he's going to do that again anytime soon. My gut is untrustable, says Lawrence. I mean, you're right. You're right. I've made some gut decisions and they haven't paid off. But I don't know. I'm thinking about it. This is going to be the conflict between my brain and my gut. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to bring Firetog on. Good evening, Firetog. You're live on air with myself. It's a Gameweek 10 kind of review. Massive supporter of the show, and it's a pleasure to have you on with us, Firetog. How's your Gameweek 10 been?
It's good. I've put my team in the rate my team section.
Yes. So, wow. So you've got your captain. You nailed your captain. Can you just tell us what points you're on, so I don't have to add up?
Yeah, 56 plus 6 coming off the bench.
56.6. That's really nice, isn't it? Nice singing chew coming off the bench for Otamendi. Connolly there, sitting there as well. Oh,
yeah, he's not coming off. Well, not unless Aubameyang doesn't play.
Gets injured in a warm-up or something. I don't know, but
yeah.
I mean, even with Aubameyang, you're going to be confident going tomorrow. In that game at home to Palace. That I know Palace is pretty solid in defence, but any game Aubameyang plays, you can be hoping for some point returns, aren't you?
No, it's been a good day today. After yesterday's Vardy and people captaining Vardy, I made a good comeback today on quite a lot of them. So yeah, pretty happy.
Well, yeah, because it's only been Pope and Tomori that have not returned you points. It's
Tomori. They conceded. I don't. 15 minutes to go, 4-0 up, and then they concede 2. That's crazy.
It's football, isn't it? And looking at your team, it's really strong. I've saw that game on Friday night. Obviously it was kind of like I kind of describe it as bullets hitting me in the chest every time I saw a goal update, thinking red, big red arrow, and of course I did get a big red arrow. Are you kind of calm and not going to jump onto this Leicester bandwagon that seems to be developing?
Before that game, my future plan was I need about 2 million to upgrade Tarkowski to Robertson. So I was looking at Aubameyang to Vardy. Now it looks like it's knee jerk, but before that game, that would be. And I don't want to do. I wasn't planning on doing it yet because I'm looking at game week 13 when I want to bring in double Liverpool. So I was like, where am I going to release the funds? Well, Aubameyang down to Vardy looked like a clear, easy way to get 2 million. So I don't need to do it immediately, but that's kind of the route I was going to go to. I want to put some money back in defense. So
you've got the luxury to wait till tomorrow on this, or would you be priced out?
Oh no, I've got this bunch of. I don't know. I've got like 0.8 in the bank.
Okay, so you have got the luxury of waiting. So
yeah,
tomorrow,
I'm not worried about that. Originally, I was going to do Sterling down to Mane to release it, but I think I'd rather get it out the forwards.
I'm looking at this. I'm thinking Aubameyang tomorrow. If he doesn't do anything against Crystal Palace, that'd be another game week of disappointment.
He's not been great. He's been ticking along. In fact, he had a 2 last week, a blank last week, but he's like I've been getting like 5 points off him. Nothing great. Not for 11 million.
Exactly. It's the same with Aguero. It's like it's all very well saying next week he's going to be a sure starter because he's been benched, or he didn't play the week before, so he's got to play the next week. But you're still looking at a lot of money tied up in your player that is coming on for 14 minutes. Just doesn't cut it. Even if he scores a goal in that, I mean, there's players that are outscoring Aguero.
12 million is not worth 1 goal. That's what Aubameyang hasn't had as a brace yet, I don't think. No. Certainly not since I've had him. So for 11 million, I want more than just ticking over.
People will call it a knee jerk.
Points.
People will call it a knee jerk, but you've got to look at where else you're investing in your team. So like if you were to bring Robertson in, and take out Tarkowski, and do that switch, I just think that to me it's a massive upgrade in your team. It really is a massive upgrade, and we all talk about how you feel about your team each game week. How do you feel? Like, to be honest, I'll be honest, it's been a really disappointing game week, and I was really kind of down today because of that game, that Leicester game. I was thinking, you know what? I didn't see that coming. Nobody saw that coming. I was pretty down because I've not had a great season so far, and I've made some mistakes, but I was happy with my team. So that's the only solace that I can take, is that I'm actually happy with my team. And if you can say that bringing in Robertson and bringing in Vardy is going to then... If you're going to be more happy with that team and not having to take point hits to do it, that's a bonus. And...
yeah,
I mean,
I'm happy. I mean, I'm happy with it. Last week I got 28. The week before I got like 30 something, 40. It was terrible. So the last couple of weeks it's been horrible. But I've been looking at the team going, team looks pretty solid. It's going to come good. So I haven't been panicking, and I haven't done any. I've done like 1 transfer. I haven't done any hits. Just waiting, being patient. Like I say, 26. I was about 6 million game week rank last week.
I've got an interesting
patient guy.
Interesting stat from Colin Barker in chat saying Vardy played Chelsea, Tottenham, Liverpool, Man United and had 5 goals and 1 assist in 8 games. Look at the fixtures coming up. Look at the opposition they've got. You may be labelled a knee jerk, but if you were thinking of those moves ahead of time anyway, you've got a justification to it anyway.
Yeah, it doesn't bother me if it's in my plan. Whether something's happened ahead of at this weekend or not, it still was in my plan. So, but I wasn't planning on doing it this week necessarily. I want to do it before week 13 because that's when the swing is for Liverpool. When I want to get Robertson in.
I never considered Vardy instead of Aguero because of the fact that I had Aguero. I was priced out of Vardy. I had to kind of go with a cheaper alternative like Callum Wilson and Tammy Abraham, because I couldn't afford Vardy because of Aguero, and now because Aguero has been.
No, you look at Aguero as your way into Vardy.
Aguero has been my nemesis this season. He's been my downfall. I've been so focused on Aguero. I've been thinking I can't get Aguero at my team. He's going to explode any minute now. He's going to explode.
It's a fear of taking him out and him doing something, isn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, and this is a game of prediction. You can't react. It's not a game of reaction. It's a game of prediction. You can't get the points from last week. And I know that I'm contradicting myself when I say Vardy in for Aguero, but the point is that he's got really nice fixtures. He's in great form.
I wouldn't take Aguero out before Southampton though.
Well, but again, this is the conflict I've got in my head.
Kick yourself if he scores a hat trick against Southampton next week.
If he starts on Tuesday against Southampton and plays 90 minutes or the best part of 90 minutes, I'm going to be biting my nails.
They got Carabao Cup in the week.
Yeah, Tuesday. They've got the League Cup in the week, and on Tuesday against Southampton, and my nails are gonna be biting if I don't do this transfer, and then Aguero plays 90 minutes, and I miss a price drop. Or I know
you're not priced out though, are you? So you don't need to don't need to jump on.
No, I know. I'm not gonna jump on it. But I am going to be stressing about it. I know I know it's a transfer that I probably will benefit from long run because it will give me that money to upgrade elsewhere. Like for
same as I'm doing. I'm releasing that money out to upgrade.
And I don't care if people call me a knee jerk because it doesn't really bother me. But what I do care about is being kind of calculated in my transfers, and I know sometimes I can go on a bit of a mad run of like hits, but part of the fun from FPL for me is kind of trying to get ahead of these massive point hauls. And there's a lot to consider. And Aguero, again, I said a minute ago, wouldn't be surprised if he does something against Southampton. It really wouldn't surprise me. He is due a haul. This is Aguero we're talking about. He's not gone rubbish. He's just not given the minutes. And
he was pretty rubbish, which was a couple of weeks ago. He had a bunch of shots and he missed a whole bunch. Like he should have scored 3 or 4. He missed some sitters.
Yeah, but he's not getting the constant minutes that he had last season, and he's ticked over in those games, but he's not been prolific. He's not been the Aguero that we know, and he's not getting any younger. I know that a lot of people have said that.
Didn't he score a bunch in the midweek against Atalanta?
Yeah.
2?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to be thinking very much over the next few days, and Sunday surgery tomorrow. I mean, the best thing for me after the stream is to just not think about it. Just ignore the price drops, ignore the price rises.
Yeah, wait till after the League Cup because you never know. He might play and get injured, or Jesus might play and get injured. If Jesus is injured, then it's a completely different ball game, right? Because then he's nailed. So you let that game go through first, and then make your decision.
Absolutely, Fartog, absolutely. But going back onto your team, whereabouts are you going to be in the overall? Have you worked out?
The Cash League. FPL Live FPL's got me like 21, I think 23, moved up from 28.
23,000.
Oh, sorry, in the Cash League, 23rd in the Cash League.
Oh, 20. Oh, it's like 23 in the 23 in the Cash League.
Yeah, I moved up from 400,000 to 220 since today. No, I actually moved down yesterday. I was at almost like beginning of this week, I was 437, and last night I dropped to over 500,000, and now I'm up to 222. So I've cut my rank in half today.
Wow, I wish I did. No, but
Mate, one good day can do, isn't it?
Yeah, like I've been saying, it's very close. It's very close still. In the top 1 million. But no, I mean, again, without stating the point too many times, you've got a very strong team, especially with, you've. I think that Aubameyang move is brilliant. I think wait and see what he does. Much like me, really. Wait and see what happens with him. And
are Leicester playing midweek? Do we know?
I don't think they are. Anyone tell me in chat before I Google them?
I just Google it quickly.
Leicester's playing. They are playing against Burton Tuesday. Playing against Burton on Tuesday. Will Vardy play that game?
I doubt it. It's worth waiting though, just in case.
Yeah, worth waiting. Yeah. You got the money, you got the time to save. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
People are saying no in chat. Well, they are playing Burton. Vardy won't play. They're saying to Vardy. Yeah, they're on about Vardy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have thought they're playing Inacho probably, aren't they?
Most likely, I wouldn't imagine he would play Vardy. But yeah, Firetog. Any final thoughts about Gameweek 10 and any other things?
Not really. Hope for a good game tomorrow with the Liverpool game. Hopefully TAA plays. I don't know if that virus is too major. I don't want Tarkowski coming off my bench with 0.
I guess again, it's I don't know what the latest was. I think he will play. I don't think it was anything too serious. If he does play, you'd be hoping for an attacking return. He's at the centre of everything creative.
I'm hoping for an exciting game. It's the game of the weekend, isn't it?
What do you predict the result?
Well, I was thinking 2-0 to Liverpool.
Okay.
Spurs have been a bit iffy.
So I'm not going to regret getting rid of Son.
I got rid of him this week.
So yeah, hopefully I won't regret getting rid of Son.
I bought De Bruyne in for Son this week.
Well, I think you've strengthened there. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But De Bruyne in for Son.
Yeah.
You didn't have De Bruyne before then. God.
I told you last time I had De Bruyne at the beginning of the season and no Sterling. And then everybody in the Cash Mini League had Sterling and he scored a hat-trick. And then he scored again and he scored again. So I bought Sterling in week 4 for De Bruyne.
Then he didn't.
Sterling then went blank. And De Bruyne went 11, 15. So I completely missed out on both sides. So now I've got both of them. So.
Well, I mean, he's got to stay in your team now. Don't get rid of him unless he gets injured. Thanks for the subscribes, guys. Much appreciated. If you're new to the channel, thank you for hitting that subscribe button there and supporting the show, and also hit that like button as well. But Firetog, it's been a pleasure talking to you all the way from Bermuda. What's the weather like over there?
It's not bad. About 75 degrees, a bit overcast. Yeah, nice. I'm in shorts. I'm in shorts all year round.
I wish you could see the weather outside my door right now. It's not very pleasant. I wouldn't be wearing shorts, put it that way. But thank you for calling from paradise. And
all right, Jason. Speak to you soon, mate.
Look forward to seeing how you get on with that transfer, whether or not you do eventually move onto Vardy. But speak soon. Cheers, Firetime.
All right, bye.
Cheers, buddy. That's great, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to read some more comments out in the chat. We'll be looking to tie it very shortly. But let's see what people are talking about in the chat. Jamie, glad to be at the house, Vardy. What are you referencing there? Thanks for the subscribes again. Guys, I much appreciate that. Cunley E with a subscribe. Shots fired at the missus. I'm reading conversations here. I'm not reading out questions, am I? I'm just reading conversations. I triple captain Vardy and he got me 60 points, says Ramzan Rashid in chat. Well, congratulations. You've literally outscored me from one player. Congratulations. I'm still stuck between 1 to 2 million, says Tahir in chat. Triple Chelsea attack is bonkers, says Tahir. Wasn't that bonkers last week when everyone was on about Chelsea being a great asset to have? Obviously Steve-O didn't think it was bonkers. So many games coming up, lots of rotation expected. Yes, Tahir. I know. I'm an Aguero owner. I am worried. Watching from South Africa. Have I ever visited? Yes. I have, Max Sebastian Johnstead. I have visited South Africa on multiple occasions. My fiance is from South Africa. We stay in the garden route in a town called George, and we enjoy walking around, well, all around the garden route, really. Tsitsikama, love Cape Town, love the garden reserve, the game reserves. They're absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful place, beautiful country. I would recommend anyone, if they've got the opportunity to visit, to go and visit. Stevo is bonkers. Yeah. Lekker. Yes. Dis a lekker dag. It's not for me though. Just joined. What's the verdict on Maddison? If you got him, keep him. That's the verdict. If you haven't, don't necessarily spend points or chop your team up to get him in. I think Vardy's more than Ejek. Yeah. Shall I get rid of Pookie next transfer window? Pistol, wait and see what he does against Man United. You've held on to him this long, you might as well wait and see. Next transfer window. What, in January? Lots of Safas around. There's a lot of Safas around, yes. But guys, any more questions before we wrap up the stream? I just want to say, guys, this is the first stream I've done on multi-platform. So we've got people in Twitch. Admittedly, you guys have just been with your little emojis, spamming your emojis every now and again because you guys have got the emojis. That's what but it's been great to. I don't know what the Periscope's been like. I don't know if anyone's watching on Periscope. I don't know if that's worked or not. I have no idea. I'll find out after the stream. And I don't know if there's been any issues with. But normally, if there's any issues with buffering or any latency problems, you guys you would tell me. So, have I got the green light to do this again? Do you think it's a good idea to go on Twitch and on YouTube and on Periscope and on Mixer at the same time? Let us know your thoughts. Come into Discord, let me know. We have got Keyboy, who's here now. He's a late joiner onto the waiting room. Let's bring Keyboy in, a long-time supporter of the show. Keyboy, how you doing this evening? You got yourself muted, Keyboy. How you doing, buddy? Keyboy, are you there, man? Oh, he's not there. Never mind. Well, hopefully, if he unmutes his mic in the next few minutes, then we'll get him in. Oh, yeah, there he is. Keyboy, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry, mate. I couldn't work out. It's been so long since I've been on. I couldn't work out how to unmute myself there.
Keyboy. Whereabouts are you in the Kashmir League?
I haven't checked this morning, but when I checked last night, I think I was sitting about 11th or something like that.
11th. Let's have a look.
I'm sitting 9th at the minute. 9th.
Look at you, all sitting pretty
I know,
at
high
9th.
flyer, mate. That's me.
9th place, Keyboy. What's that? Oh my god. 72 points. Guess what? You got Jamie Vardy. Of course, you got Jamie Vardy. Every man and his dog's got Jamie Vardy. Apart from me. Sterling captaincy, Yarmolenko, De Bruyne all returning your points. Pereira. You got Robertson to play with Mane tomorrow as well. Ryan in goal. And you've got who are you gonna have coming up? Gonna have possibly Greenwood.
In history.
Possibly Greenwood. Will Greenwood feature against Norwich? I don't think so. If he does, it'll be for a cameo, and you don't want that. Best hopes with Dendonka, isn't it? Really. But
I suppose so. Yeah, the bench is it's the worst bench I've ever had. But it's just done absolutely nothing for me. Like I see people with Lundstrom coming off the bench and getting like 50 points, and I get Dendonka week in week out get me too.
Or Rico come off the bench. That's not a bad shout either.
That's true.
No, I mean, you've got to be thinking to yourself, I've got a great chance for this cash prizes. You go 4th spot. I mean, how far away? Let's just go back into the Challenge League now. So 4th spot's currently, obviously the game's not updated yet. 549, and you're on 5. Yeah, you're you got to be thinking you got a great chance now to get into that cash spot, surely.
I think I'm definitely in for a shout, but I don't know. It's in the game week 10. Do you know what I mean? There's so long to go. But we'll have to wait and see. But I'm definitely happy the way things are going.
Yeah.
To be honest, I haven't been able to do anywhere near as much to my team as I'd liked in like the last few weeks. Cause I just started a new job doing scaffolding. And it's like I've barely been able. That's why I've been so inactive in the Discord and stuff as well. So like I think that's kind of helped me, to be honest, because like I did my wild card not last week but the week before, and I just did the first thoughts. I just put it straight in there, and then I said I'll do that when I get a chance, and then I just never did. And it's kind of like to not constantly be overloaded by all these decisions and information. I think it's kind of helped me a little bit.
Do you think that this season more so that the popular picks just have been so inconsistent that to have that calm level like mindset is kind of like essentially helped you? Is this, would you say that is a fair statement? We obviously a lot of we had Aguero being benched today, De Bruyne's just ticking over, Callum Wilson blanked, Tammy kind of ticking over, but with these, is it purely because of this less than 9-0 that we're thinking of this is doom and gloom this game week?
I mean, I think it's pretty fair to say, like this season the popular picks have been pretty lackluster, to be honest. I think that's fair to say. You wouldn't really say you're getting all your value from your money, specifically in like at the start of the year where everybody thought the Liverpool defence was going to be amazing, and it's just not been that good. So I think that's definitely a fair statement. But again, I'm just a super patient player. Like I don't really. I'll have 2 or 3 players that I say I'm going to keep in for the whole season, and that's it. So I think it's just a matter of just keep your head, wait and see. They're that price for a reason. They've done it year in and year out. You're going to have the types of players like Abraham, who at the start of the year wasn't a necessity, but now he kind of probably is, given the circumstances. Like every year there's a couple of guys that come up that are cheap, and you go, okay, this is the year that they're going to get heaps of points. You got to back them. But other than that, I think it's pretty important that your team stays with like a sort of template spine at least. I mean, and then you sort of work your way out from there.
That's a good point. I mean, John Chappell in chat is saying, why has anyone still got Greenwood when there's Connolly of Brighton? What's your thoughts on Connolly?
I mean, I'm just too lazy, to be honest, to change. I think if I really wanted to, I would have done it in my wild card. But like I said, I just didn't have the time. But going back, there's definitely better options than Greenwood. I'm not going to sit there. And,
at the start of the season, I was convinced that you'd be getting minutes. I really was, and just hasn't happened. So yeah, it's a transfer that you probably will need to do.
Definitely, yeah. Ollie's a liar, mate. He said at the start of the year, he goes,
I know.
"Oh, Greenwood's going to get the same amount of minutes as Lukaku did last season." I don't reckon he has, mate.
Well,
he'd have to play 120 minutes for the rest of the season if he's going to get that.
Yeah, and then he moans about having to play Rashford every game and that he needs a rest, but you can't afford to give him a rest. And no, I mean, anyway, moving on from that point, your team looking healthy. You're getting a green arrow, like a lot of people. Again, you've got Robertson and Mane to come in tomorrow. Hopefully you're going to be vying for that top 4 spot in the future weeks. And yeah, I wish you all the best. And thank you ever so much for coming on. And what's your thoughts about us streaming on Twitch and Periscope and Mixer going forward at the same time as YouTube? Because my thinking is people kind of like their own sort of platforms. And I think if we can kind of amalgamate them all, then and the chat's all amalgamated, it could possibly work quite well. What's your thoughts on that?
Well, I didn't know you were doing it until you said about 5 minutes ago that you were streaming on Twitch. And I don't really have like a big preference of whatever platform, but I went on Twitch anyway just so I could have a little look, and it's so much clearer. I don't know if you can tell that. I can't see a thing. I can't see a thing. This is why I'm asking you guys, because I wish I could show you. I've got the chat from everything here. I've got my browser sources. I've got Discord up.
I've got the OBS up, and I've got all my stats and stuff in the stream. I can't have anything else because I just got so much stuff to look at. I can't, and I'm not loading up, Twitch and stuff like that. It's just going to take too much resources from. But no, I'm relying on you guys to give me feedback. I look forward to hearing it in Discord. Let us know. Again, I'm always approachable in Discord, guys. Feedback is so important for us. Me and Steve-O, we're looking to always constantly improve the stream. We look to try and better ourselves, and absolutely, you're the most important part of the show. And Keyboy, thank you ever so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Hopefully I can start getting a bit more involved again, get some time freed up at least, but I appreciate you having me on anyway. You can see what Twitch is saying. It's down here. For those watching the stream, that down there, Chaban82 with that purple logo, that's a Twitch viewer talking in chat. There you go. Thank you ever so much, Keyboy, and look forward to speaking to you again soon. Cheers, dude. All right, see you later, Jason. Bye.
Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we are currently sitting at 11:15. Well, nearly 10:11. It's gone on a bit longer than I expected. A late caller, but yeah, thank you, boys and girls, for joining me this evening on our little test that we've done. Everything's indicating it's worked out well. Look forward to seeing you tomorrow evening on the Sunday surgery and watching Steve-O's Sunday. I think he's doing a Sunday soccer Sunday. Don't quote me on it. Find out tomorrow. I hope you're getting green arrows left, right, and centre. Check my team again. Why is that? 44 points minus 4. 40 points overall. Yeah, Ramsdale bonus point. Yay. David Silva bonus point. Yay. 44. That's not bad. 40 points isn't too bad, is it? My rank, 922,481. Not very good. But I can only get better, right, guys? I can only get better. Thank you, guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Take care.
Just of interest, whereabouts are you? Not in the world, but are you near like an industrial machine or something? It's very 2 seconds. Just ask a couple of questions. I just need to get the door for a second.
No problem,
this is what happens when you're live.
What's going on? Not really. I'm waiting to go to gym. What about yourself?
Live on YouTube doing a stream.
Why do you feel that you're constantly changing your teammate? Is it just there's just so many ideas?
So many ideas, so many different perspectives. I blame Brett Mollison for his 5 at back, because when you see my new team.
Wow.
Brighton home, they couldn't buy a goal in the last season.
Well, I don't know. Dan's got Glenn Murray. I think he'll have a word to say about that.
I'm detecting possibly a German accent. I'm probably completely way out. But where are you calling us from?
South Africa.
On the first day, I literally just typed in FPL, like first draft, and yours came up like first. So I thought, I'll watch one of the live streams when it comes on. And then I thought, this is a bit long, isn't it? About 2 hours in. And then 3 hours later, well, an hour later, I was like, yeah, these seem alright, you know. Steven's not that bad.
I have one question for you. I want you to predict the order of the Elite FPL ranking. So, like, who do you think will finish first, second, and third out of y'all three this season?
So it's certainly no disrespect to Dan, but it's certainly going to be between me and Jason. And right now, as it stands, I'd go with Jason because my history suggests that I'm going to be having a bad season.
So I've got the 5 at the back. I just see a lot of value there. I feel like if I don't have Salah, I can spread the money elsewhere and maybe get the points another way.
All the teams now, except for obviously Salah and Sterling, these players, a lot of players are going to change towards the start of the season just because of new transfers, injuries that could happen, and all of that. So for me to tell you now, like personally right now, I'd say definitely if Tammy Abraham or Batshuayi are cheap, I'd get one of them just because I don't care about Man United. We can score against them at least 2 or 3.
Hey guys, this season we're using Discord. It's a text and voice application where you can talk all things FPL with fellow community members. You can post your team in the Rate My Team, talk in the general chat, you can look at transfer news, look at awesome GIFs, sign up for our Cash Mini League, look at our previous podcasts, and even join us live on air in one of our streams. We look forward to seeing you guys. Link is in the description, or look at the code on screen.